Did US President Donald Trump know in advance about Israel's attack on Qatar, one of America's closest allies in the Middle East? That's one of the critical questions dominating headlines after an Israeli airstrike hit a residential compound in Doha on September 9, targeting Hamas leaders and shaking the region's fragile diplomacy. The strike wasn't just another escalation in the long war between Israel and Hamas. It was a direct hit on the sovereignty of Qatar, a nation central to peace talks and home to one of America's largest overseas military bases. For Donald Trump, the timing could not have been worse. In the days leading up to the attack, he had been pushing hard for a truce. On September 7, he issued what he called a last warning to Hamas, demanding it accept his proposal to release all hostages. The deal was bold even by Trump's standards. Hamas would free between 48 and 50 hostages on day one of a ceasefire. In return, Israel would release thousands of Palestinian prisoners. The plan also called for Israel to freeze its offensive in Gaza City, while Trump personally oversaw broader peace talks. Hamas admitted it had received these American ideas, but said it wanted a guarantee that the war would truly end, that Israeli troops would actually leave Gaza, and that an independent Palestinian committee would govern the territory. Prime Minister Netanyahu's office responded cautiously, saying the plan was under review, but casting doubt that Hamas would ever agree. And Trump's stance had shifted sharply in recent weeks. Only months earlier, he had insisted that hostages would be freed only after Hamas was, in his words, confronted and destroyed. Negotiations had already broken down once in the summer when American and Israeli envoys stormed out of Qatar, accusing Hamas of stalling. But the strike in Doha could change everything. Trump told reporters he had not been informed by Netanyahu before the attack. Instead, he was notified by the US military, something he said that which was deeply unsatisfactory. He claimed Washington had tried to warn Qatar, but admitted the message arrived too late. Trump called Israel's decision to bomb the territory of a sovereign ally unacceptable and promised Qatar's leaders it would not happen again. He even ordered officials to draft a new defense agreement with Doha. Yet, in the same breath, he defended Israel's right to pursue Hamas, exposing the contradictions at the heart of his policy. The White House press secretary dodged direct questions about whether Trump was angry with Netanyahu or planning consequences. Instead, she suggested that the strike might somehow create an opening for peace. And not everyone was convinced. Chris Coons, the Democratic senator from Delaware, said it was alarming that Israel would act without informing its closest ally, the United States. Analysts, at least some of them, speculated that the US may have had prior knowledge, but chose not to intervene, or that Israel simply preferred to apologize later rather than ask permission. And the fallout was immediate. Qatar condemned the strike as a flagrant violation of international law. The European Union pledged solidarity, calling it an attack on Qatar's territorial integrity. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer also denounced the strike, warning it risked widening the war. The blow to Qatar's reputation as mediator was severe. For years, Doha had hosted Hamas's political office at Washington's urging to keep back-channel talks alive. Now, with negotiations frozen, both Israeli hostages and Gaza's civilians face an even bleaker future. Regionally, embers flared. Turkish President Erdogan called the attack a heinous attack meant to inflame conflict and promised more support for Qatar. But perhaps the most dangerous consequence lies with America itself. Qatar is not just any other mediator. It hosts the massive Al Udeid air base, a cornerstone of American power projection in the region. With Israel striking on Qatari soil, the risk of retaliation against American facilities has sharply increased. Trump's swift promises to protect Qatar even as he reassured Israel, show the tightrope Washington is walking. Criticizing an ally while endorsing its goals, balancing condemnation with cooperation. It's a strategy filled with contradictions. What's clear is that the Doha strike has raised new doubts about whether the United States can still control the course of this war.